Picture yourself walking through a storm, just totally unflinching.
Walking through a storm.
Yeah, think about it. The wind, the rain, it's all happening, but you remain steady, unmoved inside.
Come on in, let's talk about it. Come on in, let's talk about it. Make it make sense.
Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're tackling something I think we can all relate to. How we react to, well, the daily grind. We're looking at ways to maybe step out of that feeling of being constantly, thrown around by life's little dramas.
That's right. We're diving into some principles of self-mastery to explore how you might develop what you could call an unbothered mindset. The material we've been looking at offers some really interesting takes on training the mind to achieve this kind of inner calm.
Okay, so our goal here, our mission, is to pull out the really useful stuff, the practical steps you can actually use to react less, feel more in control, maybe more at peace.
Exactly. And it's important. This isn't about just ignoring problems, right?
No, that's what I was thinking. It can't be about just sticking your head in the sand.
Not at all. It's about fundamentally changing how we engage with those problems. It's building that inner resilience so you're not constantly feeling, overwhelmed.
Okay, resilience. I like that. So let's get into it. This whole nothing bothers me idea. It sounds almost, impossible sometimes. What's the core concept?
Well, at its heart, it's learning to create a bit of space. Space between your emotions and whatever's happening externally. The source material uses a great image. Picture yourself walking through a storm, just totally unflinching.
Walking through a storm.
Yeah, think about it. The wind, the rain, it's all happening, but you remain steady, unmoved inside.
That's a powerful image. And it connects to those historical figures, people who seem to navigate chaos with this real sense of inner control.
Exactly. The principles we're looking at suggest that the truly influential individuals weren't necessarily the ones reacting loudest, They projected this kind of air of self-possession, like they had some inner compass others didn't.
Which brings us to that key idea from self-mastery. Thought precedes action. How does understanding that help us become more unbothered?
It's foundational, really. If you're just constantly reacting on emotion, you're basically letting the outside world pull your strings, right? You're a puppet. But by cultivating this steady core, you start taking charge of your internal landscape and therefore how you respond.
So it's about catching that moment before you react.
Precisely, that initial emotional surge. It's just a signal. The insight is recognizing you have this tiny window, maybe just a split second, between that signal and your response. That's where your power lies. It's not about pretending you don't feel it, but consciously choosing the thought that fuels your action or inaction.
Okay. Give us a concrete example, like in everyday life.
Sure. Imagine someone insults you in public. Your gut reaction might be anger, defense.
Yeah, absolutely. Wanting to lash back.
But the source material suggests a different approach. Maybe just a simple smile. You walk away. What's fascinating is how that response, which seems passive, actually deflates the other person. They wanted a reaction.
They didn't get it.
Exactly. And leaves them feeling a bit off balance. You kept your power.
Right, you're not giving them that satisfaction of seeing you rattled. Okay, what about bigger things? Like failures or setbacks. Those really stir up emotions.
That's a big one. The key here is reframing. Instead of seeing failure as like a personal catastrophe.
Which it often feels like.
Totally. But this unbothered mindset encourages you to see it as just data, information, a learning opportunity. It's about stepping back, analyzing what happened, adapting, and then, crucially, moving forward without getting stuck in that emotional quicksand of frustration or self-pity.
So not internalizing it as, I am a failure.
Exactly. It's this attempt didn't work. What did I learn? So, practically.
Yeah.
What's a tiny thing you could do?
Yeah, like a first step.
Maybe just a daily mindfulness minute.
Yeah.
Seriously, just 60 seconds.
Yeah.
Focus on your breath. Notice thoughts, feelings, but don't judge them. Just watch them drift by.
Just 1 minute.
It starts building that muscle, creating that tiny space between the thing happening and your reaction to it.
Okay, that makes sense. And the source gives some other actionable advice too, right? For cultivating this.
Oh, definitely. A critical step is to consciously pause before reacting. Just take a breath. And in that pause, ask yourself, does this really affect my long-term goals? Is this big emotional reaction truly necessary, or am I just giving away my peace?
That question, does this impact my long-term goals? That's a good filter.
It really is. And consistently choosing not to react or to react calmly builds that emotional resilience over time.
Emotional resilience, I like that term. And there was something about visualization.
Yes, picture yourself as that calm, composed person. See yourself handling criticism without flinching, navigating pressure without getting overwhelmed. Mentally rehearse it. The more you visualize it, the more your mind starts to accept it as your default setting. Our minds are surprisingly trainable.
So the goal isn't to be a robot, emotionless. It's about gaining control over the responses. And the source suggests this actually changes how others see you.
Absolutely. When you consistently show you're not easily rattled, you become, well, a bit of an enigma.
Harder to manipulate.
Exactly. People can't figure out how to push your buttons. And in that mystery, there's a real strength. You command respect through your calm presence, often without saying much at all.
Okay, let's shift slightly to this idea of emotional detachment. That term can sound a bit cold, but you said it's not about suppression.
Right, that's a crucial distinction. Emotional detachment in this context is about controlling your emotions, not getting rid of them. It's definitely not about stuffing feelings down that's unhealthy. It's more about creating a healthy distance. So your emotions inform you, but they don't hijack you.
Okay, so back to that argument scenario.
Yeah. Instead of instantly firing back, you consciously choose not to give away your inner peace. You recognize their words only have the power you grant them.
And the benefits of cultivating this, what does it actually do for you?
Well, the upsides are pretty significant. Less stress, for one, more mental clarity. When you're not constantly being tossed around by emotional waves, you can think more rationally, make better decisions. It's pretty straightforward, really.
It does keep circling back to that idea. Thoughts shape reality.
It really does. When you take charge of your thoughts and your emotional responses, you basically become the architect of your own experience. The source shared this powerful story. Someone who lost almost everything but rebuilt their entire life purely because they controlled their mindset. Setbacks were lessons, not dead ends.
Wow, that's a strong example.
Yeah.
So how does this emotional detachment help with, say, long-term goals?
Think about why people give up. Often it's emotional turbulence, right? Fear, doubt, frustration. They get overwhelming. But detachment lets you see these feelings as temporary, like clouds passing. They don't have to be permanent roadblocks. You can persist through challenges because you're not constantly derailed by how you feel in the moment.
You mentioned it doesn't mean being cold, though. How do you square that? Feeling things but being detached.
It means your emotions serve you instead of you serving them. You still feel joy, sadness, excitement, all of it. But you're in the driver's seat. You're not a victim of your feelings.
Okay, makes sense. So what's a practical first step someone listening can take to start developing this detachment skill?
Next time you feel a strong emotional reaction bubbling up, just try to pause, consciously. Instead of jumping right in, just observe the feeling. Ask yourself, is this really life-altering? Does it deserve this much energy? Often the answer is no, or at least not as much as the initial feeling suggests.
That pause again seems really key.
It is. And building on that, another related tool is mindful indifference.
Right, and this connects to having a clear purpose, too.
Absolutely. When you know what truly matters to you, your core values, your big goals, then the little petty distractions and emotional trash they lose their power. Your energy's focused.
Okay, mindful indifference. That sounds like another angle on this, but maybe more specific. What's the superpower there?
The superpower, I think, is challenging that ingrained belief that we have to care deeply, have a strong emotional reaction to everything that crosses our path. Society kind of pushes us to worry about every judgment, every opinion. Mindful indifference is about consciously saying, you know what? Most of this stuff just won't matter.
The source had that question right. Will this matter in 5 years? I've actually tried using that. It's surprisingly effective.
It's incredibly helpful, isn't it? So much of our daily stress, small criticisms, temporary setbacks, awkward moments, they just fade. But in the moment, we give them so much weight. Mindful indifference is about taking back that power, choosing what actually deserves your attention and energy.
And it's crucial, like you said before, this isn't apathy. It's not about not caring at all.
Precisely. Indifference here isn't lack of caring, it's strategic prioritization. Your emotional energy is finite, right? So you choose where to invest it. Not every little bump in the road needs a full-blown emotional meltdown.
So it's a shift from being automatically reactive to being thoughtfully responsive.
Exactly. Think about people you admire for their strength. They aren't usually the ones freaking out over every little thing or desperately seeking approval, are they? They have this inner steadiness. They know who they are, what's important, and they're not easily shaken by external noise.
That really lands. And the source used an example about handling unfair criticism with this mindful indifference.
Yeah. Someone prone to reacting might get super defensive, argue back, try to prove the critic wrong. But someone practicing mindful indifference, they stay calm. They understand words only have the power you give them. By choosing not to react emotionally, you keep your dignity, your composure, and paradoxically, that often earns more respect.
It also connects to how successful people seem so laser-focused.
Totally. To get that getting bogged down in trivial stuff or worrying constantly about what others think is just a waste of energy, precious energy. They operate with clear purpose. Every minute spent on drama is a minute not spent making progress.
Okay, so for someone listening, what are some actionable steps to start cultivating this mindful indifference?
Well, start by just noticing your reactions during the day. When you feel that frustration or anxiety creeping up over something small, pause. Ask yourself honestly, is this really worth my energy right now? Train yourself to consciously let go of things that don't serve your goals or your well-being. And maybe take some time to actually define your core values, what really matters. When you have that internal compass, external noise loses its pull.
So it's about becoming unmoved by rejection, being okay with walking away from things or people that just drain you.
Exactly. Real power isn't needing everyone to like you. It's being secure in yourself and directing your energy where it counts for you.
Okay, let's tackle a big one then. This constant need for approval. Why is that such a common trap?
Well, because it basically hands over the keys to your happiness.
Right.
Your self-worth becomes dependent on what other people think. You give them control over how you feel about yourself. The source material really hammers this home.
Yeah.
Your opinion of you should matter more than anyone else's.
It really feels like genuine confidence has to come from inside.
Absolutely. It's built through self-reliance, through knowing you don't need anyone's permission to just be who you are. Think about those people who just seem magnetic. They own who they are, flaws and all. That's a huge part of their power.
And this need for approval, it often comes from fear, doesn't it?
Oh, definitely. Fear of rejection, fear of being judged, fear of, standing alone. But the more you chase that approval, the more you actually give away your own power. You become a prisoner to what others might think.
The source makes a really good point about the illusion of getting everyone's approval.
It's a total myth. No matter what you do, someone somewhere won't like it, won't agree. So why burn yourself out trying to please this imaginary universal audience? The people who really make a difference, they're usually not focused on fitting in. They're driven by their own vision, their own values.
So how do we break free? What are some practical steps to escape this approval trap?
Okay, first step. Really look at whose opinions you're actually prioritizing. Often, the loudest critics aren't the ones who genuinely have your best interests at heart. And second, actively work on validating yourself. Acknowledge your own wins, big or small. Celebrate your progress. Learn to trust your own judgment more.
Shifting the focus inward and detaching from needing approval. That's not arrogance.
Not at all. It's about having integrity. Standing firm in who you are, respecting your own choices, and not letting others constantly steer your ship. The moment you stop chasing validation is often the moment you start living more authentically, more freely.
And the right people, the ones who matter, they'll respect that authenticity anyway, without you having to perform for them.
Exactly. They'll value the real you, not the version you think they want to see.
Okay, moving on. Criticism, another inevitable thing. How do we handle that more effectively?
Well, the source material points out criticism is just a given. It's going to happen. But how you react to it, that's what shows your strength. A lot of people get defensive, take it super personally, but the strongest approach is more logical. Filter it. Keep what's useful, discard the rest, and don't let it mess with your inner peace.
So process it with logic, not just raw emotion.
Exactly. Learn to tell the difference between constructive feedback stuff that can actually help you grow and destructive criticism, which is often just negativity or maybe even envy. Don't let someone else's negativity derail you.
There is that sculptor analogy in the source. That was good.
Yeah, I like that too. The sculptor focuses on their vision for the stone, right? They filter out the noise from onlookers. You kind of need to do the same with criticism. Ask, does this person actually know what they're talking about? Do they have experience in this area? If not, their opinion might just be noise.
That's a great point. Often the harshest critics are the ones sitting on the sidelines, not actually doing the thing.
Precisely. Their words often say more about their own limits or insecurities than about you or your work. And responding with just calm indifference, that shows unshakable confidence. It's powerful.
And history's full of examples, right? People facing constant criticism.
Absolutely. Think of any innovator, any leader, any artist who broke the mold. They were almost always met with doubt, skepticism, harsh words. Their ability to stay the course despite that, That's often what defines their success.
So what's a practical tip for handling criticism right when it happens, in the moment?
Again, that pause. Make a conscious effort not to react immediately. Don't jump to defend or justify. Take a breath. Analyze it objectively. Is there any grain of truth here? Anything useful I can learn? If yes, great. If no, consciously choose to let it go. Release it. Having strong self-conviction is like a shield against pointless criticism.
Okay, let's talk about keeping your composure under pressure. That's tough for a lot of people.
Yeah, pressure isn't an anomaly. It's just part of the deal, right? The key is to kind of detach from needing everything to be perfectly controlled. Except that things will go sideways sometimes. Instead of reacting emotionally when the pressure mounts, train yourself to respond with strategy, calm calculation.
The source used that seasoned warrior analogy.
Right. The experienced warrior doesn't expect an easy fight. They
Mhm.
expect resistance. They focus on executing their plan, not wishing the battle was easier. We need that mindset for pressure.
So it's about mastering your internal state, not trying to wrestle external events into submission.
Exactly. When you let go of needing perfect conditions outside, you become way more adaptable, resilient. And if you can start seeing pressure not as a threat, but as a chance to test yourself to refine your composure, that's a huge shift.
You see great leaders do this, right? Exude calm when everything's chaotic.
They do. And it's usually because they've trained their minds. They anticipate challenges. They mentally rehearse responses. They prioritize clear thinking over panic. That mental discipline lets them stay in control and inspire confidence.
So actionable steps for building composure under pressure.
Actively work on that perspective shift. See pressure as a test, an opportunity. Practice observing your own emotions when stressed without letting them dictate your actions. And mental rehearsal is huge. Mentally walk through challenging scenarios. Practice responding calmly, effectively. It really helps prepare you.
It really shows the difference between those who panic and those who stay steady through that mental training.
Exactly. It's about training your mind to be the calm eye of the storm.
Okay, let's move to something that sounds like it could bring a lot of peace. Letting go of what you can't control.
Yeah, so much of our suffering comes from clinging too tightly, doesn't it? To specific outcomes, expectations, things that are ultimately outside our influence. The source used a lovely analogy, a river. It doesn't fight obstacles, it flows around them.
So it's about consciously putting your energy where it actually makes a difference on what you can control.
Precisely. And letting go isn't giving up. It's not passive. It's a strategic shift of focus. Clinging to rigid expectations just sets you up for frustration. The people who seem truly strong are often the ones who can stay calm even when things are uncertain. They've detached from that illusion of complete control.
Adaptability, again, seems like a recurring theme.
It really is. When you detach from needing things to be exactly this way, you become incredibly resilient. One setback doesn't shatter you.
So what's a first step towards letting go of something you can't control? How do you start?
Awareness is key. Next time you feel yourself really gripping onto an outcome, a person, an expectation, pause. Ask honestly, is this really in my control? If the answer is no, make a conscious choice to loosen your grip. Redirect that energy to what you can influence, even if it's just your own attitude.
The source also made that important distinction between detachment and indifference.
Crucial point. Indifference is like, I don't care. Detachment is more like, I care, I'm engaged, but I don't need to be emotionally wrecked by things outside my control. You can still be fully invested, but you don't suffer unnecessarily when life throws curveballs, because you know they're inevitable.
It sounds like there's a deep sense of peace waiting on the other side of that letting go.
Huge peace. You stop fighting reality. You learn to flow with life instead of constantly battling against it. You remain more stable through the ups and downs.
Okay, this next one is really intriguing. Silence as the ultimate power move.
Yeah, in a world that's just so noisy, silence can be incredibly powerful. A potent tool. Many people feel this urge to fill every gap with talk, right? Maybe out of nervousness or needing validation. But truly influential people, often they speak less. They listen more.
How does using silence actually shift power dynamics?
Well, silence can make other people uncomfortable. It makes them wonder what you're thinking. It can prompt them to reveal more, just to fill the void. In a conversation, the person speaking less often holds more cards. Silence conceals your own thoughts while inviting others to show theirs.
The negotiation example in the source really drove that home.
It did, that well-timed pause. It creates tension, gives you leverage. And think about responding to an insult with just silence. It completely disarms them, takes away the reaction they were banking on.
And it's also a tool for just observation, gathering info.
Absolutely. When you're not busy talking, you can observe more.
Mhm.
Body language, hesitations, the emotions underneath the words. You gather intel while revealing little yourself. Influential people often choose their words very carefully. They know the impact of saying less.
So how can we start using this power of silence? Practically.
Well, consciously practice restraint. Before you jump into a conversation, pause. Ask, is this truly necessary? Is it adding value? Make an effort to listen more actively than you speak. And in those moments of high emotion, try embracing silence instead of reacting verbally. Controlling your speech when tense shows incredible self-discipline. That commands respect.
So sometimes the strongest thing to say is nothing at all.
Exactly. Silence is a response, and often a very powerful one.
Okay, finally, let's talk about actively training ourselves to stay calm no matter what life throws at us.
Right. The source describes the mind as a kind of battlefield. The goal is mastery over your own thoughts, cultivating deep mental resilience. Strong people don't necessarily lack negative thoughts. They've just learned how to manage them, how to stop them from taking over the controls.
And this mental strength, it needs consistent effort, right? Developing key habits.
Yes. Things like practicing gratitude, self-discipline, detachment, they're all crucial pieces. It's like physical training, but for your mind. You build mental toughness through small, consistent daily choices. Choosing discipline when comfort calls. Choosing calm when chaos erupts.
So it's an active process, rewiring how our minds automatically respond.
Precisely. Detachment helps you manage the emotional reaction. Discipline helps you override that instant gratification urge and choose actions aligned with your long-term well-being. Think of yourself as that strong tree grounded while the storm passes around you.
What are some small, everyday habits that build this mental muscle?
Simple things, really. A few minutes of mindfulness meditation sharpens focus. Regular exercise builds discipline. Reading expands understanding. Even just keeping small promises you make to yourself. All these little consistent actions build that unshakable inner core over time.
And lastly, mastering the art of moving in silence. This feels like it pulls together a lot of what we've discussed.
It really does. Real power, true strength, often doesn't need a spotlight. It doesn't need constant validation. The loudest people are often the ones seeking reassurance. The truly strong. They tend to move quietly, strategically. They let their results do the talking.
That advice, stop announcing your plans. Just let your achievements speak. That's powerful.
It is. Talking about your big plans can invite negativity, scrutiny, even sabotage sometimes. Just quietly working toward your goals builds momentum and often leads to bigger success. Effective people don't waste energy proving themselves constantly.
So the focus shifts from looking successful to actually being successful.
Exactly. Resist that urge to explain everything, to justify, to seek approval. Let the results speak for themselves. Operating in silence can also create a bit of mystery, which can be a strategic advantage.
It really sounds like true mastery is in that quiet, focused action.
Absolutely. And when you do choose to speak, because you speak less often and more deliberately, your words carry much more weight.
Wow. This has been a really illuminating deep dive. Mastering our reactions. The core message really seems to be that shift, doesn't it? From being reactive to responsive. And understanding that real power comes from inside, not from controlling everything outside.
Precisely. That internal mastery is the key.
So for you, listening right now, here's a final thought to chew on. Can you pinpoint just one area, maybe one specific situation or type of person where you tend to overreact? Just one. And over the next few days, consciously try practicing non-reaction. Or maybe just silent observation before you jump in. See what happens. Consider how even that one small shift might fundamentally change your experience. Because true strength, as we've explored today, isn't about life being challenge-free. It's about mastering your inner response to those challenges.